Everything starts with an idea, all good things and all bad things. With over 7 billion people in our world, each with their own minds and ideas, disagreements are bound to occur. It is up to each individual to determine what they believe. To do this, you have to confront the controversies.
Welcome to Confronting Controversies.
I'm Elizabeth.
And I'm Avin. In today's podcast, we are going to be discussing abortions.
The Merriam-Webster Dictionary defines abortions as, quote, the termination of pregnancy after, accompanied by, resulting in, or closely followed by the death of the embryo or fetus, end quote. In other words, the killing of an unborn baby.
Abortion has been practiced in every culture since the beginning of civilization. They date back to ancient Egypt, Rome, and Persia. It has also always been controversial. The first law making abortion a crime was in ancient Assyria during the 14th century BCE, where women who were convicted of abortion were impaled on a stake and left to die.
Abortion came to political light in America in 1973 when the Roe v. Wade case went to the Supreme Court. Before the case, abortion was illegal in almost every state, along with any type of birth control. The government made these laws because they were scared that if white Protestant Americans didn't have kids, then immigrants would have more kids, leaving America with more immigrants than Americans.
Leading up to Roe v. Wade, Norma McCorvey, a 20-year-old living in Texas, wanted to get an abortion. At the time, there was no option for an abortion unless a person could pay a doctor a large sum to do something illegal. She lived in poverty and had already given up 2 kids for adoption. She and other attorneys who were against abortion laws filed a lawsuit against Henry Wade, the district attorney. They believed that a woman had the right to abortion and that the Texas law invaded a woman's privacy.
This went on to the Supreme Court and became one of the most impactful cases of all time. On January 22, 1973, the Supreme Court ruled against the Texas law banning abortions, making abortion legal across America. The court declared that a woman's right to an abortion was stated in the 14th Amendment.
The 14th Amendment declares that no state shall make or enforce any law which shall abridge the privileges or immunities of citizens of the United States, nor shall any state deprive any person of life, liberty, or property without due process of law. This means that a law must not invade a person's privacy, like if they wish to keep a child or not.
The 2 stances on abortion are pro-life and pro-choice. The pro-life stance is against abortion because they consider abortions murder. The pro-choice viewpoint is that every woman should have a choice of what she wants to do with her body.
Problems with abortion laws is that they are biased, and a lot of abortion laws play into sexism and classism in America.
A story on Health Affairs written by a doctor who performs abortions in a pro-life state stated that she, quote, met a diabetic woman with end-stage kidney disease who wanted to end a pregnancy that had begun when birth control failed. She thanked me for helping her stay alive instead of running the risk of dying during pregnancy. It meant that she could continue to care for her 3 children, born before she became so sick, end quote.
This proves that sometimes abortion saves lives. If she didn't get that abortion, it could have ended by killing her and the baby, and then no one would have been able to look after her kids, which could have resulted in them dying too. It is not fair to kill a potential life, but at the same time, she was saving people.
That's true, Avin. This doctor also states, quote, when abortions were illegal, women often tried other ways to end their pregnancy. Many ended in serious harm or even death to the woman, end quote.
To me, this shows that making abortion legal is not going to stop abortions from happening. It's just going to cause women to harm themselves by performing the abortion themselves.
Lastly, she states that laws cause, quote, women to have to pay separately for contraceptives, and often they cannot afford them, end quote. This means that there is no birth control and no abortion. There's almost no way to avoid getting pregnant.
This is where the classism comes to play. Classism is the prejudice against or in favor of people belonging to a particular social class. A rich person getting out of jail for the same thing a poor person is in jail for is an example of this ism. According to an article on the Explora database, women beneath the poverty level, regardless of race, religion, or ethnic background, were more likely to have an abortion than were middle-class women, end quote. It is very expensive to have a child, so you can see why someone already beneath the poverty line wouldn't want to have a kid.
Also, the organization Planned Parenthood stated that, quote, prohibition of legal abortions particularly hurt people with low incomes. A survey conducted in the 1960s found that among women with low incomes in New York City who had obtained an abortion, 8 in 10 had attempted a dangerous self-induced procedure, end quote. This shows that abortion restrictions can cause women of low incomes to try to do an abortion to themselves, causing harm to themselves.
Lastly, another article stated that, quote, influenced by broader social and economic disparities in the U.S., unintended pregnancy and abortion are disproportionately experienced by low-income women and women of color. Thus, coverage restrictions can both widen health disparities and create unequal access to safe abortion care, end quote. Typically, the higher class is the people voting for abortion laws.
We gave a survey to 7th and 8th grade students and found that people in the higher class were more likely to be pro-life. This, along with the fact that it's expensive to pay for abortions when they are illegal and more expensive to pay for contraceptives, show that the abortion law favors the upper class.
These situations cause women in the lower class to revert to dangerous ways in attempt to end their pregnancy. This whole situation is an example of classism because it is harmful to one certain class, in this case, the lower class.
This supports the pro-choice side in stating that everyone should have equal access to abortions. On the other side, people who identify as pro-life don't want to kill the fetus if it has potential for life. They think of abortions as murder. I wanted to see if abortion was considered murder in technical terms. After looking at the definition of murder in 8 dictionaries, we decided that murder has to be 1. Done out of hate, 2. Planned beforehand, 3. Against the law, and 4. Inhumane. Abortions are done for many reasons, but most of the time, the woman isn't able to take care of her baby. If anything, they are done out of love. The woman doesn't want her baby to live a bad life in poverty, so she doesn't have the child at all. We also looked at the definition of inhumane, and according to dictionary.com, the definition of inhumane is, quote, without compassion for misery or suffering, or cruel, end quote. An article written by Sarah G. Miller on lifescience.com says a, quote, fetus is not capable of feeling pain until the 3rd trimester, end quote. In another article, we found that 89% of abortions happen in the 1st trimester. This shows that abortions are normally not done out of hate and are not inhumane. In addition, many people who get an abortion feel bad about it and do not take it lightly. Many women understand that what they have done, but they believe it would be better this way. From all our research, we came to the conclusion that abortion is not murder.
Earlier in the podcast, we talked about the 14th Amendment and how pro-choice believers use the official document to make abortion legal. Thomas Cole, the U.S. Representative for Oklahoma's 4th Congressional District, defends the pro-life side by quoting a different official document. He says that, quote, as penned in the Declaration of Independence, our forefathers founded the nation with the strong belief that individuals are endowed by the Creator with certain unalienable rights. Among those is the right to life, which influences my commitment to protecting the most vulnerable, including the unborn, end quote.
That makes sense. He is explaining that everyone should have a chance at life. But on the other side, though, nobody should have the right to tell someone else what they can do with their body. The deeper we got into researching this, the more conflicting and confusing the arguments seemed to become.
I also realized that both sides have good arguments. Someone who has no background information or opinion would believe whichever side's reason they read first. What I mean by this is if I, not knowing anything, researched abortion and clicked on the first link to come up, that's what I would believe. If it was Representative Cole's article, I'd believe his and the pro-life reasons. And if it was the doctor's story, I would follow pro-choice beliefs.
That's a very true point. In the survey that we gave our classmates, we asked the question of how they were educated on abortions. 27 out of the 67 people that answered said they found out about them through the internet, news, and other forms of social media. Our classmates will most likely to believe whatever they saw first. We want to address some misconceptions about abortion. Many people believe that the people who get an abortion are teens who were reckless and find it inconvenient to have kids.
But in reality, according to an NBC News article, quote, half of the roughly 1.2 million U.S. women who have abortions each year are 25 or older. Only about 17% are teens, end quote.
Another misconception is that people getting an abortion don't care or think about anyone other than themselves in the process.
But Guttmacher Institute studies found that 60% of abortions were obtained by women that already had children. Also, most of the people getting an abortion did not want their child to have a bad life.
To go deeper into the topic, I want to introduce a few more points made by each side. Many people that are pro-choice don't want the baby to be killed. They just believe that the woman should have a choice. A pro-choice article stated that if an 11-year-old girl was raped and got pregnant, she should have the choice to have the baby or not.
On the other side, a pro-life writer, Michael, wrote a posting that, quote, abortion is the denial of another person the opportunity to leave their mark on the world. Each child has the potential to be the next Albert Einstein or the next Wolfgang Mozart. To barter this potential for simple expediency is a crime against humanity and diminishes us as a thinking and feeling species. When we choose convenience over life, we cheapen all human life as a whole, and we degrade the intrinsic worth inside all of us as people, end quote.
Yeah, but it can also go the other way. The child could be a murderer or another Hitler. The mother's life should not change this drastically just depending on what the child could grow into. Also, most people getting an abortion would not be able to raise a child to be the next great thing.
Just like when I talked about classism, I see what you're saying because most people getting an abortion don't have good financial stability, so they probably won't be able to pay for the extra things needed to raise an Albert Einstein.
This is also not very fair to the mother. If she dies in the process of giving birth, she doesn't get to live up to her full potential either. Yes, it's wrong to kill a baby, but the mother also deserves her chance at life. It is up to the woman to decide what she wants to do with her body. Sexism plays a huge part in abortion laws. Sexism is a quote, prejudice, stereotyping, or discrimination, typically against women on the basis of sex, end quote. An example would be women not being allowed to vote just because they are women. White men are normally in the place of power, not the women who are getting abortions. Men don't have to deal with being pregnant, so why should they tell a woman what she can do with her body?
Some pro-life arguments state that people shouldn't have an abortion or use birth control. This is sexist because this takes away all options for a woman to have sex without the risk of getting pregnant, but this does not affect men at all.
And an article published on USA Today states, quote, 25 white male Republicans in Alabama voted to ban abortion in the state of every stage of pregnancy, unless the mother's physical or mental health is in jeopardy. This is one of the most restrictive abortion laws in the country, end quote. This affects so many women wanting to get an abortion. According to NBC News, about, quote, 60% of have given birth to at least one child prior to getting an abortion. A disproportionately high number are Black or Hispanic, end quote. This large number of Black and Hispanic women have no say in these laws. Most women seeking an abortion already have children to take care of. These men are highly impacting many women's lives and bodies in a subject that's not really related to them.
In the end, I want to say that I agree with the pro-choice side. I believe that people should have the choice on what they want to do with their body. Nobody should have the right to force someone to have a child. Not only could it hurt them physically, but it could hurt them mentally, socially, and emotionally.
I also agree more with the pro-choice side of the argument. I understand the pro-life ideas, but I feel it should be up to the woman to decide what she wants to do because it is her body.
Both sides have a reasonable argument and evidence backing it up, so which side is better?
To fully judge what is right and wrong in this situation, we need to understand both sides. We also need to understand that everyone has different beliefs and we all have different reasons for that belief, but we still need to respect everyone.
Our goal is not to make you believe our opinions, but to give you the resources to
confront the controversies yourself. A special thanks to everyone who made this possible. Miss Robinson, who helped us along the way, Miss Graves for giving out our survey, everyone who took the survey, and to you, our listeners.